I'm going to ask you a very serious question, and I hope that you'll answer it honestly and really consider the implications of what I'm asking of you when you listen to this. Do you have a moral compass? Now, a moral compass is any set of rules, whether written down or otherwise, that you know you can follow in order to decide on what's right and what's wrong. Now, obviously, in order to have a moral compass, then you must believe that right and wrong actually exist in, if nothing else, black and white terms. Now, I'm not here to talk about whether or not right and wrong is a spectrum or not. It doesn't really matter to this conversation. But rather, if your moral compass is genuine. Now, what I mean by that is that a moral compass has to be qualified by consistency and practicality. Those seem like odd terms to ascribe to the ideal moral compass, but the fact is that a lot of people don't have grounded moral compasses. They don't have a set of rules that is both consistent and practical. One of the most common moral compasses today is the golden rule. And this golden rule isn't accompanied by much until the moral compass actually comes into question, until its genuinity comes into question. The golden rule, in case you live under a rock, is do unto others as you would have others do unto you, which is essentially saying that if you're willing to have something reciprocated onto you, then it's okay to do to somebody else. But this falls apart rather fast, especially when it comes to matters of social and sexual deviancy. What if somebody enjoys being sexually violated? Well, by the golden rule standards, then they would consider that to be morally correct. Now, if you think that that's a ridiculous example, you're going to have to tell me why. You might say, well, it's just obviously unreasonable that somebody could think that it's okay to rape somebody else just because they want to be raped. Okay. Why? Why would that be so unreasonable? You might come up with something about how human beings should be respected and how each person should be given their own space and how you should assume that somebody is deserving of their own agency and shouldn't be taken control of. And where are you getting these ideas of this supposed evil thing? I understand I may be putting some of you in a disturbing position right now because I've essentially asked you to prove that rape is evil. But the sad truth is that a lot of you won't be able to. Now, just to immediately clarify, this is just an example of why one of the world's most common moral compasses is not a valid moral compass. I am not actually interested in discussing rape right now. I just wanted an example that included somebody forcing something unpleasant or unwanted or destructive onto another human being. That was just one of the first things that came to mind, so there you go. So, how do you determine what's right and wrong? Especially if you're an atheist or an agnostic. If you don't believe that there's a God, where does your set of moral standards come from? Do you recognize that it's going to be different from every person? Now, the immediate knee-jerk reaction to that for some people will be, well, that goes for religious people too. Every religious person is going to have their own version of faith, and therefore they're going to have their own moral compass. And this is true because texts like the Bible and the Quran do not explicitly list out right and wrong for every single conceivable situation with such clarity that the black and white is so intensely and intrinsically obvious. No text does that. And so there is some degree of interpretation on the part of a religious person where they have to look at their text, they have to think about what they've learned in church or their mosque, and they have to make a decision about the situation that may not be as explicitly addressed by their text as would be ideal. However, The argument I'm making here is that those who follow a religion that has an established moral compass, such as, let's go with a simple example, the Ten Commandments. Those people have a more grounded moral compass than the people who attempt to decide what is right and wrong for themselves. Bear with me, we're getting into some pretty heavy stuff here. The reason that I believe that religious people have more grounded moral compasses is not simply because they are told by a book, by the Bible, what is right and what is wrong. That is a part of the Bible's content. Some people view it as an instruction manual for life because a lot of what it tells you to do is modeled after the figure Jesus' life when he was walking the earth. But there's an additional component, specifically to Christianity. I'm not going to speak on Islam or other religions because I simply don't know as much about them as I do Christianity. But Christianity does something that atheism will never do, and that is that it ascribes value to a human being. As an atheist, the most value you can ascribe to yourself is value that is derived by the positive ways in which you influence other human beings. But if there's no creator, and human beings are imperfect and destructive, and we kill each other off, and we're making fewer babies now, and the universe is dying, and we're probably not going to be able to save it, then human beings are all temporary. And on top of that, since there's no creator and we're all just products of evolution and absolutely nothing else, since we have no souls and we are nothing but flesh and blood, well, everybody's an accident. Everybody's just a collection of cells. And so the only reason you can really respect other human beings is because they've either accomplished something, in which case, well, how do you determine what is right or wrong? Simply because you respect somebody. Or because you yourself are probably a human being, and there's things that you don't want done to you, and so you say that those things are wrong because you don't have a better moral compass to operate off of. And please do correct me if I'm wrong about this. This is sort of the apex of my singular exploration into this topic. The fact that Christianity ascribes value to human beings, and the way it does so is by saying that God created all of us. God has a purpose for all of us. Therefore, every person's existence is justified because the creator of the universe has a plan for every person, and there's a soul residing within every mortal shell that's going to go to some sort of afterlife once it passes from this earth. See, that gives human beings value unlike any secular belief system. And what that means is that there's suddenly the ability to label things right or wrong based on the value of the person. So it's wrong to murder. Thou shalt not murder, according to the Bible, because human beings are special creatures that were created by God, that were created by an intelligent designer, and which have a purpose. Therefore, if you kill a human being, you are interrupting that design and that purpose, and therefore that is objectively wrong according to the Christian text. Do you see how religious people actually have a stronger moral compass because of this? You're going to have to look at some of the things that you perceive to be naturally good or naturally evil, such as politics that infringe on people's ability, people's freedom to make the decisions that they want to make, like gay marriage, for example. Looking at it without all of the consequences of homosexuality, the good and the bad. States in the U.S. that ban homosexuality, or which did ban before the Supreme Court made it legal to marry in all 50 states. Those states that banned it were were restricting what people were able to do. But are you able to morally justify your belief that that is incorrect, that that is somehow wronging another human being? By a secular standpoint, especially. The only way you're going to be able to reach a level of intellectual honesty that will let somebody like me respect you, not that you need my approval. I hope you're chasing intellectual honesty because it's kind of important for living a healthy lifestyle and maintaining a healthy mind. In order to be intellectually honest with yourself, you're going to have to identify just how your moral compass can exist, or if it's justified, or if you are simply imposing a set of morals that don't actually have any sort of grounding or foundation on other human beings. And I think that regardless of what you believe about moral compasses, you would agree with the statement that forcing your opinion on somebody else without the ability to back it up is inherently wrong. Now, I am able to say that because I have a moral compass that has grounding. I personally am a Christian. And so I see the Bible talking about how we're called to live Christ-like lives, and that means embracing virtues like honesty and kindness and patience and faith. And we're constantly called, Christians are constantly called to pursue this higher standard of living. We're called to strive for the perfection that Jesus Christ exemplified during his life. And something destructive, such as forcing my views on somebody else, and before you even dare to comment on this very point, I'm not forcing my views on you. You are watching this video because you're willing to receive the audio into your ears. You've made a voluntary decision. You're constantly making voluntary decisions to listen to what I'm saying. So I'm not forcing anything on you. But because I have that moral compass, I can say it's wrong for me to force my opinion on you because that's not the best way for me to influence you or for me to help you consider things differently. What about you? Can you say that forcing your opinion on somebody else is morally correct? The reason I'm doing this topic first, the reason I went over this before I went over anything else aside from the wisdom, is because it serves as a precursor to a lot of things that are going to follow. I'm going to talk about a lot of things that affect other human beings, some things which are political, some things which are religious, some things which are social. And as you're listening to these other videos, you're going to have to take your moral compass into consideration, because I'm going to say that some things are morally correct and some things are morally incorrect. And so we have to establish first that there are valid moral compasses and there are invalid moral compasses. And I'm obviously operating under the belief that I have a valid moral compass and, say, an atheist does not. I'm not really sorry if that offends you, and it's necessary that I say it in order to further discuss the things I'm going to discuss in the future. But at the very least, think about it. Especially, and I'm appealing to the intelligence of the secular truth seekers. If you believe yourself to be somebody who pursues truth, I ask that you consider the nature of your moral compass. Think about the importance of the ability to determine what is right and what is wrong, and then come back to me and let's talk about it, and hopefully you will be able to get more value out of the things I have to say. If you enjoyed this or if you saw it insightful, please do like, share, and subscribe. And if you have any questions or if you want to tell me what a stupid asshole I am, feel free to do so in the comments. I like to know that people are willing to engage with me on this, because I am discussing what I believe to be intellectual topics that are very important to humanity's future. That's not to bolster my own importance. I'm just talking. Okay, it's just my perspective. It might not be anything special, and as I said in my initial video, it may all be completely wrong. But until I see that, I'd like to think that there's some value in it, and I hope that you see some value in it as well. Thank you.